truth, logic, common sense, that gut feeling, and yes, even a little psychoanalysis. As we are once again together, you and I, to discuss Lori Hussey Daybell's first day of jury selection. The trial is proceeding, folks. My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Lord have mercy on us all, y'all. The only reason I'm going to be coming to y'all during this jury selection / voir dire process is because they're through with the first group. And they're going to go on and do the same damn shit to the second group. They might add a few questions here and there. But if you haven't been to the community wall to see the first release sketch, I just want y'all to know that Candance's daughter, Paige, an incredible artist that she is, could have done a lot better. And I said this person, whoever did it, they did okay. It's better than nothing. I mean, at this point, we're looking at freaking stick figures would be better than nothing at all, right? I mean, if you ain't getting a damn reservation or a freaking golden ticket or whatever to sit in on this, you know, you're kind of left just going and refreshing the Twitter of Justin Lum and Nate Eaton of East Idaho New. I put the links on the community wall on the updates with that. Have y'all ever thought that we'd see the day that this is how it's got to be? I mean, really. I mean, this is not transparency, but I'm not going to go down that road. What I am going to do is kind of let y'all in. I'm sure some of y'all have been following this, these live tweets and all this. But for those that are just kind of wanting to hear it, a point of view from OKJ about what's going on so far, I've actually got this whole first group down packed with the prosecution's questions and the defense's. And I'm going to kind of give y'all my opinions, my insights, and my perspective of how it's going so far. First of all, they went in there this morning and everybody's together, and the state starts out with voir dire. And I'm going to read these off. Again, some of y'all have been reading them as they go. Some of you haven't. So I'm going to go ahead and re-emphasize it, okay? Rob Wood's now discussing media and news coverage, and this is how they've started out. Says a lot of things out there aren't true, and that a lot of things on the news won't be presented in the trial because they aren't relevant to the case. And I mean, unless you're talking about dates and times, there's a lot of things that are true that's in the news. Specifically when the news is reporting Chandler dumps and all of this law enforcement information. A lot of it is true. I've never run across anything in a news media article that is not generally true about what's going on here. But, you know, Rob Wood's going to say what he's going to say. He asked the jurors to set aside everything they've heard before and only rely on what they hear in the courtroom. He asked if any jurors will have difficulty doing that and calls on one of the potential jurors to answer. And she says she hasn't heard anything about this case. You know, I remember when all this went down, and through this last couple of years, there have been several times that you and I both have talked to people. It's like, what are you talking about? I don't know who these people are. And we were kind of shocked. We were like, I can't believe you haven't seen this in the news or heard about this. But this woman, she says she's never heard about it. You got to kind of take their word for it, right? There will be some evidence in this case that I would describe as emotionally charged, says Rob Wood. It won't be easy to look at. He asked if anyone will have an issue with this, as there will be autopsy images with children. and a lady raises her hand and says she has 2 elementary school age children. She did not know this case involved children. And remember, we talked about jury selection, and really the whole process is to weed out people. And you got to wonder whether that would be an advantage to the state to have someone who has children to sit through this and see those autopsy photos. I mean, I really think that at this point, it probably would not be an advantage for the defense to have a mother of small children sitting on this jury. This is just my opinion. Now, I'm going back and forth through the tweets and the live updates between Nate Eaton and Justin Lum. Justin Lum says, this is a case that deals with murders. 2 of the alleged victims are underage. The autopsy photos will not be easy to look at. Does anyone here have a problem seeing something like that? And that's when the juror 51 said that they had elementary age children and thinks that it could be difficult to see that type of evidence. And so they're starting right off the bat. Generally speaking, they're letting these potential jurors know this is going to be a tough case. We want to know whether you've got any kind of media exposure. And we want to know if you're going to have a problem looking at real disturbing photos. Then, of course, Rachel Smith, who is, she is very good at all of this. She's from Missouri. She's been on death penalty cases before. She gets up and she says, the judge will give you instructions throughout the case. Each of those crimes read that Mrs. Daybell has been accused or of having specific definitions of to what she's been accused of. The judge is going to give those definitions of those charges. Smith refers to instructions as recipes, compares to chocolate chip cookie ingredients, flour, sugar, chips, and butter. And some of you jurors, prospective jurors, might think that recipe isn't a good recipe. But Smith says jurors must follow that recipe given by the court. And I thought that was a simplistic way of looking at it. In some ways, you want those jurors to understand things, and to say, you know what? If you sit on this jury, you're going to have to dang follow exactly these instructions, whether you agree with them, whether you disagree with them, whether you think that law shouldn't be there, you've got to follow it like a recipe. And then Rachel Smith says, if you are presented evidence that a person can be guilty of participating in a crime they planned, can you consider convicting them even if they didn't do every single part or do the final act? And what she's trying to get at is that they need to get to the meat of it about conspiracy. That, you remember, it's two or more people decide to do something, and then each person does an act in furtherance of that objective, of that plan. And so, then one of the jurors says to that, juror 338, potential juror, wants to confirm that Rachel Smith is referring to conspiracy, and she is on that. And then, of course, Rachel Smith follows it up by saying, well, yes, we're talking about conspiracy. And just because somebody didn't, she doesn't say this, but this is where she's getting at. Just because someone doesn't do all of the acts or actually kills or actually does, whatever, that doesn't mean they're not guilty. And then Smith compares the situation to the driver of a getaway car involved in a crime. That getaway driver might have not went into the bank and held people up or anything like that, but they were part of the plan to rob that bank. So there you go on that. And then this juror says she answers no, that she wouldn't have a problem doing that. And there were no hands if the jurors would be impacted by someone testifying who had different beliefs. This is when we get into the beliefs. And this is what I was trying to allude y'all to my last goofy skit about Zulema. Even though these potential jurors are sitting there saying, it doesn't matter what their beliefs are, we're not, just because we don't believe what they do, that doesn't mean that we can't be fair and impartial. But folks, let's just look at this. The state is trying to get this, they're trying to weed out people. And I'm sure the defense is going to want to take a good hard look at this too. As soon as Zulema and Melanie Gibb and David Warwick and all these cult members go on the stand, and the defense and the state, but specifically I believe the defense is going to try to bring out these crazy ass beliefs. These jurors, these potential jurors might be telling Rachel Smith, oh, I think we can be impartial because I don't believe the way they do. The bottom line is you got to know it, y'all. You got to know when they start hearing this crazy ass stuff, deep down they're going to be like, these people are nuts. These people are crazy. It's a one thing, for me as a Christian, I believe in Jesus Christ, that he died on the cross for my sins. And I believe in the Holy Bible and what it speaks in there. It's God's holy word. But there are other religions out there that don't believe anything that I believe. They might think, wow, she believes in this and I don't believe in that at all. It's not that. We're talking about crazy belief system that, even though there are some ties to the foundational religion of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, some of it is not tied to it at all. And that's just my opinion. Others believe that it goes right along with it. And this also goes into when they went in there, each of them, the first group, they all went to individual voir dire. There was some follow-up questions that we don't get to hear about. I do not believe that the state or the defense can ask them their religious affiliation, because you are not to discriminate against someone's religion on any basis at all. So I don't know that was asked. I just really don't see that being part of the private questioning that they would have. And even if it was, y'all, even if they could ask that question, do you mind me asking you what religion you are? And someone says, I'm LDS or I'm a Mormon or whatever. Does that necessarily mean that the state or the defense would want to exclude them or add them? The bottom line is on one side, you've got someone who might want to cover for Lori. That might want to say, in their own mind, I totally get where she thought this or whatever. Or the other hand, I am LDS and she's just warped this and made us all look bad. So either way you look at it. Now, if someone's religious beliefs were different than your own, would it affect you at all, says Smith? And none of them raised their hands. They say that they could be neutral about this. Smith, explaining what conspiracy meaning, goes on to talk about witness credibility, though. You may hear about a witness's employment background, religious beliefs, etc., and it may be different than yours. Smith asked jurors if the witness's religious beliefs were different, whether they would have an issue with that. And again, none of them signaled that they would have a problem with this. Smith wants to know if anyone has issues convicting someone with mainly circumstantial evidence. And this one kind of made me stop and think a little bit. This cannot be just a circumstantial case. There has to be something in it more. I'm not saying there's a smoking gun of, we've got pictures of them actually doing this to the children in Tammy. But, even though it is law that circumstantial evidence is just as strong as direct evidence, it seems to me that this is where the state is going, and that they're going to probably be presenting a lot of circumstantial evidence. Again, circumstantial evidence is a lot like this, y'all. Direct evidence is sitting in a chair on the beach and you see someone walk in front of you. And you know, hey, directly I saw that person walk in front of me. That is direct evidence. Circumstantial evidence is when you've fallen asleep in the chair and there were no footprints in front of you on the sand, and you woke up and there were footprints there. You know, circumstantially, somebody walked by. You just didn't see it. So there you go on that. Smith continues questioning the jurors, and Lori Daybell appears to be taking notes. And you can be damn sure Lori thinks in her own demented mind that I'm going to look at them. I'm going to look. I can sense with my queen abilities. I can sense who would be good. And she will. She absolutely will let Archie and Thomas know who she thinks should sit on that jury. Now, will they give in to everything she wants? I don't know. But if she has something, hey, Archie Thomas, that woman over there, I really have a strong indicator about something she said. I really think we should try to hold on to her. I believe it, y'all. She ain't in there damn taking notes on anything else other than these people that are sitting before her who could very well, 1, 2, 3, many of them, because there's another group coming in. They're going to go through this process again. She knows these people are going to decide her fate. And if there's someone that she wants in those notes, she says, Archie, I want this man over here because he kind of looked at me, or whatever the reason. If Archie and them look through the questionnaire and their questions that they do in voir dire and the private individual voir dire, and they see that Lori's, asking them to put this person on there and they don't think that person should be there, they will let Lori know, hey, Lori, thank you for letting us know that. But these are the reasons why we don't think they should sit on this jury. Bam, bam, bam. They're going to let her know this. Voir dire continues that Rachel explains circumstantial evidence to jurors using a cookie jar analogy. If a child appeared with cookie crumbs on their mouth, despite not being seen taking cookies out of the jar, would you as a parent hold them accountable? And this is interesting because this goes back again to circumstantial and direct evidence. This is tied into the question before about that. Because, the bottom line is that a parent doesn't have to see a child reach their hand into the cookie jar and take that cookie out and eat it, or see the child in another room somewhere with a cookie that came out of that jar. They can see crumbs on their face. Well, maybe they'd have to see the crumbs, and if they were chocolate crumbs, that came from that jar. The child's been nowhere else to get those cookies, and so forth and so forth. They're trying to weed out people. Definitely. And then they get to the point where one juror has heard names of some of the witnesses. And the reason that this potential juror understood who these people were was they worked at the Idaho State Crime Lab. So this person had worked there. This juror says that she spoke with them every day. One individual who trained her on the job while she was there. So you have to assume, and I'm just assuming, that this has to do with either law enforcement, someone else that works at the crime lab who's coming to testify. This could very well be a chain of a custody issue. This could be something about whatever they've got that they've tested through the crime lab, okay? And Smith didn't see anyone else on the questionnaire that knew anyone on the witness list. She asked the one juror about her experience with those witnesses that may give her insight into the case. And this person wasn't a lab technician. This person was a administrative assistant. So they might have been in the office, working in the office. Maybe these people came in who were going to test things. And again, this doesn't necessarily preclude this juror from being on the jury, but it has been explored. Basically, I'm sure if they didn't ask her specifically in this general voir dire, which they did actually, she talks about will it affect her ability to be fair on all sides? I'm sure during individual voir dire, they might have come right out and said, okay, tell me about your conversations with these witnesses that you've seen at the state lab, where one of these witnesses trained you and all of this, right? Smith asks if anyone has watched CSI. One potential juror responds she's a fan and lists the different series she has watched. Smith says there may be an expert in the case who testifies a murder occurred, but the expert may not be able to determine exactly how the person died. Smith asked the potential juror if she would have a problem with that, and the lady says no. Now, this to me is two-pronged. Number one, she's speaking of Tylee, y'all. No one's, they're going to be able to give testimony about Tylee being, what the way they found her and stuff. But just because they don't know for sure how she died, this might give us a clue that, y'all, maybe a gunshot bullet or slug or whatever, or GSR wasn't found. Maybe they will never know how Tylee died. And another prong on this is maybe Rachel Smith would not want this juror on the jury panel, because this person has these expectations that it's going to be like, well, if you don't tell me exactly, forensically how this person died, this would be reasonable doubt to me. This would be somebody I think the state would want to keep out. Now, the CSI fan, aka Juror 323, has no issue with not knowing exactly how a victim died. And of course they're going to say that. But if this person is watching CSI and they've gone on to talk about they like this about it, this is very fascinating and all of that, the bottom line, y'all, is it's never like CSI on TV. This isn't TV, y'all. This is real life. And there are going to be a lot of unanswered questions forensically, I am assuming. And they want to make sure that people can understand, and make no mistake, y'all, the state and defense can ask these questions all they want, and they can obviously say, oh, I wouldn't have a problem with this, or I could be impartial. It really goes further than that. It does, because anyone can tell you anything. If this woman absolutely has this fascination for forensics, and there isn't nothing there precise to say how Tylee died, again, that goes back to reasonable doubt. Now, we're going to switch over to the defense. And remember, y'all, there's going to be groups come in and they're going to do this stuff all over again. They might ask the same stuff or variations depending on the answers that these prospective jurors give. But Jim Archibald starts out, and this is so comical, y'all. Really? He says, I want to see your eyes, and I want you to see into mine as we talk about your qualifications. So, first and foremost, Jim Archibald, he is trying to put everyone on the spot, basically. He wants to look them in the eye. He wants to make people nervous. This man really can look into someone else's eyes and know whether they're going to be a good fit to sit on a jury who can be impartial. Archie asks questions a juror who works as a laundry technician at the Ada County Jail. Here's another signal, y'all, of he's looking at these people's employments. He already has their questionnaires and he already understands where they work or what they do. And she clarifies what she does for a living. She works with inmates who fulfill needs of the jail. And Archie says, would the fact that you work in a jail cause my client concern that you could judge her fairly? And she says no. And think about this, y'all. If this woman is working around other inmates, she's around them more. She looks at them more as, and y'all, really, I'm just being real with you. She sees them on a more human level. Or she might look at them as more as inmates, one or the other, depending. And so Archie might want this juror to sit on this jury because he feels like this juror would not look at Lori as an inmate, someone who's in jail, someone, more like a human being, or he might say, I don't want this person because this person probably, through my questioning, thinks, kind of distance herself from seeing inmates as human beings, basically. One or the other. They're going to have to flesh all this out. Then Archie questions a stay-at-home mom. He asked if she would struggle with any hardship if she was sitting on a jury. She volunteers at a school and her husband is a pilot. She says she can manage, and Archibald says, it's your call, right? So you see where he's lasering in on. When he got those questionnaires, his questions were going to be curtailed around these people's employment and whether or not they would have a hardship or not, because he goes into another stay-at-home mom. Archibald questions another potential juror who is a stay-at-home mom of 2 young children. He asks her if she is concerned about serving on the jury and being away from her kids. Do you want to stay or would you like to go? And she says, I would like to go. She doesn't want to be there. She wants to be with her children. Now, does Archie want a woman like that who any real mother would want to be with their children? They would not want to be away from their children day after day after day. And of course, they're not sequestered, but still, day in and day out, she would be away from her children. Not to mention, there would be a daycare expense, don't you think, if she couldn't find somebody to take care of the children? And then Archibald asks that this stay-at-home mom be removed for hardship. And guess what happens? Judge Boyce does not allow that to happen. You see, this potential juror has 2 small children, has said publicly, I don't want to be here. This juror could very well be someone that the state would want. I don't see that the defense would want this stay-at-home mom, because any mother sitting on this jury, folks, it's going to be hard for a mother of 2 small children to see pictures, autopsy pictures of someone else's 2 children. How this, it would, to me, I would be surprised if when they get all this weeded out and then you've got Archie and the state having just strikes. In other words, they're going to get to say, I don't want you on here and I don't have to give a reason. I guarantee you, Archie's not going to want a stay-at-home mom on that jury, and he will save his strikes to get them off there. And that's really kind of sad, because Lori should be judged by her peers, and a peer would be a mother, and especially a stay-at-home mother, because Lori didn't work. And by the way, a peer would be someone with 1 or more children, wouldn't you think? Then Archie's now questioning individual potential jurors about how they answered certain questions on the questionnaire. And y'all remember we went over that questionnaire. There really wasn't a whole lot of personal information per se on those questionnaires. I got one. We talked about it on one of the pre-records. It was an Ada County juror questionnaire. We went over it. But he's developed questions, general questions from there. Then, of course, the state has made theirself pretty well clear that they're looking to take jurors off of this jury who have had publicity that they've already been exposed to. But then again, think about it like this. Someone who hasn't at all heard anything about it. Remember, we talked a few minutes ago about one that said they didn't even know there were children involved in this. Well, remember y'all back when we couldn't believe it, first of all, that anyone hadn't heard about this case. But think about us ourselves as we got filled in on facts about what had gone on in this case. And of course, we only have half. According to Nate Eaton, he says only half of the evidence that's factual, coming from law enforcement, that's been released to the public, half of it we don't know nothing about. But just the half that we do know, it absolutely seared me. It shocked my conscience. Think about it like this. Is it really a good idea to have a juror sit on the jury that's never heard anything? Could you imagine them sitting there? First of all, they're just finding out that, hey, there's publicity. I didn't know nothing about it. Now I've heard there's children involved that were murdered. Now we're talking about religious beliefs. Wonder what that's all about, since I don't know nothing about it. And then day after day sitting on a jury and being filled in just a little bit more about what happened. How it would absolutely shock the soul to hear any of it. To hear any of it. This goes back again, y'all. When someone becomes shocked who's never heard of this before, are they still going to be able to be impartial? Are they still going to be able to say, okay, I can follow these jury instructions. I can follow the recipe. These charges that she has, here's the recipe for it. I have to follow the recipe, even though there's some of it in it that I don't really agree with or I thought would be different in the recipe. I've got to follow the recipe. So, folks, the bottom line is this is going to go on all day. They had several groups doing the questionnaire stuff as well last week. And so they're going to just continue doing this over and over again. They're going to whittle people down. And let me just say this. There were 5 total jurors, potential jurors, that were excused today. 3 for that they had raised their hand and said, I have a hardship. There's no way I can do this for 8 to 10 weeks. And the judge was able, with the state and the defense not objecting to it, 3 people were able to leave today. And 2 people for individual questions that, where they were off somewhere where we couldn't see it. 2 individual questions about pretrial publicity. To me, common sense says they excused those other 2 because the other 2 had to say, yes, I've heard all about this. I've been following this. So that's 5 total out of this group. How many more this afternoon? Will the state and the defense home in more, whittle down their questioning, generally speaking, where the general questions that people will get to see, will continue to watch those updates, or will they continue to be repetitious, or will they go into these individual voir dire things and hone down their questions even better about it all? But make no mistake, y'all, Lori is for sure writing notes out on who she thinks that Archie and Thomas should consider. Also, remember this, y'all. When you look at the updates and you see what the state and the defense are asking about, as you notice, when Archie started, he started off right off the bat talking about, you have a hardship. He's trying to get everyone out of there that would have any kind of hardship. And you know what? One of them couldn't go, who wanted to be home with her children. And he wants her home because what? She's going to be so quick. I want to be home. I want to be home. Say she sits on the jury. I want to be home, but the judge wouldn't allow me, and now I'm on the jury. I've got 2 small children. I told y'all from the beginning I didn't want to be here. And what is she going to do? She's going to want to quickly come up with whatever answer at the end of all this, which 9 times out of 10, it's for conviction more than it is not guilty. They're going to want to get home. And besides that, I cannot imagine a mother sitting on this jury could not foundationally say to themselves, through all of this, this was a mother. Why, if she wasn't planning any of this or anything, then why did she let her kids walk out the door in the first place? You see? And even after when they were gone and she didn't know they were murdered, then why didn't she want them back? Why did she go off to Hawaii? I mean, y'all, it's going to be so hard for anyone sitting on that jury to reconcile what this damn hussy has been involved in. She is absolutely a murdering, diabolical, evil hussy, basically. It is what it is. But anyway, I wanted to get with y'all. I'm still holding out. Y'all probably will not hear another pre-record from me until Judge Boyce makes a decision on whether Kay and Larry can sit in the courtroom. I will continue to comment on the community wall. Please let me know if you hear of anything. Be open about what you think about this process of jury selection. If I thought that there was going to be much difference on these other groups coming in, there might be slight deviations from what they're doing generally. But obviously, we're not going to know what they are asking them privately. So let's just continue, y'all. Let's just continue to get justice through understanding. And this is something I know we all can agree on when it relates to justice through understanding. The right jury, y'all. The right jury has to be picked. We want a conviction, y'all. This woman is guilty. And let's just continue to pray. Let's pray and let's keep our eyes and ears open throughout all of this. And if y'all don't mind, I try to keep it to the side. I try not to put it in the forefront when it comes to truth, logic, common sense, and our gut feeling. But I do want to close with this. In terms of jury selection and the voir dire process and seating 12 members of a jury along with 6 alternates because they've decided it's going to be 18 total, I want to say this in closing. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us of our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen. I am praying that the jury that is seated will do the right thing, that justice will be done. I love you all. I will get back with you when we get a decision on Larry and Kay. Please visit the community wall. Let me in on things that maybe I don't know. I don't know what you know, and you don't know what I know during all this today and all week. Just feel free to put it in the comments and keep on looking.